How to overcome depression as an entrepreneur. So there was this crazy stat that came out a few years ago from Forbes magazine, and it stated that over 72% of all entrepreneurs struggle with mental health in some form or fashion, which is absolutely insane. Think about it. When you go to these conferences and you're sitting with 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000 people, you can literally look and count a 70% of them, right? So 7/10 of that group, someone in there is guaranteed to be dealing with some form of mental health. That is absolutely insane. And if you're one of those people, rest assured, I have strategies for you to overcome it, especially if it is depression. So make sure you subscribe to this channel, and let's go ahead and jump into point number one. So depression is by far one of the most common mental health disorders that people experience. And depression can come in definitely a lot of different forms and fashions, right? Like you can have depression because, let's say, you lost someone or you're going through divorce. Or you can have depression because there's a chemical imbalance in your mind, right? In your brain, if you will. So many different ways. And I'll just stop right there because I could go on a tangent about that. But if you're dealing with depression, one of the first things that you can do to help you to overcome that depression is first knowing the difference between sadness and depression. All right. Now you guys may be thinking like, wait, aren't those the same? Aren't you using the same vocabulary? And no, it's not. It's totally different because sadness is something that we all experience. You can be sad because you got a bad grade on an exam that you were taking to get certified for something. You can be sad because the goal that you were trying to accomplish with your Facebook ads, you totally missed it. There's a lot of things that you can feel sad about, right? And here's the thing. The difference, and this is the one of the silver lines, right? One of the things you need to look for when it comes to defining sadness from depression is the amount of time that sadness is present. Because if you're upset, let's say again, your Facebook ads goals did not meet the goals that you set, right? Or let's say you planned on buying a house and someone came in the last second and outbid you, and now you're back looking with your realtor. Those things, they happen. And that sadness may be with you for maybe a few days. But if it goes past 2 weeks, that is a sign of depression. And that's one of the biggest signs that you need to look for. Now, in addition to that, right? So in addition to mood, something else that determines if someone's feeling depressed is if they're having weight changes because they're either not eating or they're eating a lot because they're feeling sad. For some people, they may binge eat, which is a big sign of depression. Other people, they may feel so down that they have no appetite. I tend to see this when someone goes through a breakup. They cannot eat. They may snack a little bit. Maybe they eat ice cream, but for the most part, they're not eating at all. And as a result, their weight starts to drop. In addition to this, things that used to bring you pleasure no longer brings you pleasure. Also, you're having suicidal thoughts, and also you're having a lack of motivation, a lack of energy, right? You're not as up and go get them type of person that you were. You don't have that same energy as you once did, right? So a combination of these, and there's a few more, but a combination of these main symptoms will determine if someone is feeling depressed. So how does this help? Well, if you're experiencing sadness, I would tell you that you could probably handle that on your own with some friends by going down your self-care plan, which everyone should have, right? You should know what brings you happiness, what brings you energy, what brings you joy. But if you're experiencing depression, that is a clear sign that you need to reach out to a therapist, someone like myself, because from there, they can give you the skills and strategies you need to overcome that mood, right? To overcome that sense of lost pleasure when it comes to things that used to give you pleasure. All these things that you're going through, there are skills and strategies that I can give you or any other therapist can give you that will help you to overcome it. And if it's really bad, so again, going back to the idea that depression comes in different forms, you can experience a chemical imbalance in your brain. If it's something to that magnitude, you could also meet with a psychiatrist who will prescribe you medication to help recalibrate some of those chemicals in your mind. So one of the first things you need to do is just, again, know the difference between sadness and depression. Main point number two, notice the path that actually got you to feeling depressed and ask yourself, have I been down this path before? Because here's the thing, we are creatures of habit. Whether it's for good habits or bad habits, we are at the end of the day creatures of habit. So there's a chance this feeling that you're feeling, right? This depression that you're experiencing, you may have been down this road before. And I would ask you, Are you down? Have you been down this road before because you've been people pleasing? So maybe that's taking on more clients than you need to. Maybe it's doing other people's work. Maybe it's, I don't know, stepping outside of your work hours and scheduling that last meeting at 7 p.m., even though you're supposed to be done by 5 p.m., right? Like that people pleasing tends to pull the energy out of us. And when we lose that energy, we don't have enough to put it in the areas that will move our lives, that will move the needle in our lives, if you will. So that's family, friends, self-care, your spirituality, exercising, eating right, all these things that truly, truly matter. Even the energy to go back to your business the next day, you need to conserve that. And people pleasing is a big drainer of that. Something else that may be happening is that maybe you are overproductive. And it's like, wait, and am I not supposed to be productive? Yes, you're supposed to be productive, but you can be overly productive. And what I mean by that is overly working too hard to where you're not recharging your batteries. And this is a big one. Sometimes even myself, I fall victim to this because we love to see things grow. We feel as though we're on this, let's say, journey, if you will. And if we stop, if we slow down, we're going to miss this bus, or someone that's behind us is going to leapfrog us. And guys, trust me, by taking time to to relax, to sharpen your saw, which is honestly a quote in the Bible. They talk about sharpening your axe. But even in the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the idea is that if you're cutting a tree with a saw and you've been going at it for, let's say, 5 hours, you may want to sharpen that saw so it doesn't take you another 5 hours chopping down this tree. Because over time, what's going to happen to that saw is that it's going to get dull. And if you sharpen it, if you take those 30 minutes to sharpen that saw, you would cut your time in half. Probably cut your time more than half. And that's what self-care does. But if you're overproductive, if you're comparing yourself to people that you're seeing on social media and you're like, yo, they have so much more success than me. They're doing so much more than me. If you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, right, you're going to find yourself burnt out, and that's going to lead you to feeling depressed. So once you notice these patterns, these habits, then I want you to ask yourself, what new habits can I institute in my daily plans, right, in my daily to-do list to help ensure that I'm not feeling burnt out, that I'm not people-pleasing, if you will. So this may be taking a lunch every day. That's something I'm very proud of that I'm able to do. And I'm able to keep it at an hour, which I freaking love. And during that hour, I'm watching First Take, I'm watching ESPN. So I really look forward to that time. And then I'm able to get back to work. Maybe you tell yourself, hey, no clients are being scheduled at 5 p.m. or later, because at 5 p.m., that is actually when I shut things down. That's one conversation I had with one of my clients where I told them, hey, start putting huge blocks of time in your schedule that no one can bother you, that no one can schedule a meeting with you, if you will. And that's going to help you to be more productive and stop you from being behind the 8 ball, right? Overworking, or let's say people pleasing, if you will, trying to make everything work, trying to make everybody happy, if you will, right? So ask yourself, what are some things that I need to change within my daily habits, within my schedule, to help ensure that I don't fall down this path of depression because I'm working too hard or I'm working to please others? All right, main point number 3, and I love this one. I freaking love this one. And this was some advice that I gave to one of my clients who actually had a similar job that I did. So when I used to work as a high school counselor, guys, I was swamped with work. And it wasn't the fun work. I was swamped with paperwork, returning phone calls, emails, voicemails. Like it was tough, and it took a lot out of me. Because for every one school counselor on this school campus, there were 500 students that you're responsible for. Okay, so again, for every one counselor, there's 500 students that you're responsible for. So I had 500 students, which means I had 500 parents, right? And everybody needs me it seems like at the same time. And it can be a lot. And what was happening was I was spending time putting out fires instead of spending time planting seeds. What do I mean by that? I spent a lot of time doing work that I didn't enjoy instead of doing the work that actually brought me into this career field to begin with. So what I started to do was tell myself, take 5 minutes to reach out to one kid and just talk to them about school, right? Talk to them about college. Ask them how things are going on at home. Maybe you take 15 minutes and go into a classroom and just talk to them about what it takes to become a great student rather than an average student. And these were things that I actually did. And it made me feel valuable. It made me feel great. It made me feel energized and motivated to come to work. But when I didn't do those things, man, guys, I was ready to throw in a towel. And eventually I did, because I wanted to spend more time, right? So instead of just 5% of my time doing what I love, I wanted to spend 95% of the time doing what I love. So one thing to help you to overcome your depression as an entrepreneur is to ask yourself, what is it that I absolutely love when it comes to my work? And then ask yourself, am I doing it? Do I find myself doing the mundane tasks that I don't like that I can outsource to someone else? Now, here's the thing, guys. I know we all have to start off from somewhere, and I'm right there with you. So maybe you don't have the funds to outsource things. Maybe you don't know how to outsource things, right? That's what I would tell you. Start small. Maybe look to hire someone in a different country, right? So it could be someone in the Philippines or somewhere in South America, somewhere where your dollar goes a lot further, okay? So I want you guys to start getting into that mindset of, how do I just do more of what I love? Now, again, if you cannot afford it, I would tell you to start your day off doing something that you love, okay? Start your day off doing something that you love to give you the motivation to now do the icky, yucky work, the boring work that you do not want to do. Point number 4, and this is something that I've spoken about in previous podcast episodes, but I want you to spend time reevaluating your values rather than your goals. You know, a lot of people have goals, and that's great, and I really do mean that. But you want to make sure you have values that are attached to each goal. Because what happens is, if you're not careful, you can find yourself in the success trap. And what that success trap looks like, it's kind of like a hamster in a hamster wheel, where they're just going and going and going, and there's no end in sight. These are the people that are like, okay, I need to make $1 million in order to feel worthy. And when they get $1 million, they feel worthy, but only for a short period of time. And then they're like, okay, how do I get 2 million? How do I get 5? How do I get 10? And the reason why is because they're looking to their left and they're seeing other people who are having 5 million, $10 million, all this other stuff, right? Guys, comparison is the thief to all joy. And we've heard this. You've heard this. And it is so true. So when you have your values in set, when you have your values that are close to your heart, they will serve as a North Star for you. And it's very hard to get off track if you know where the North Star is. But if you're following someone else's North Star, you may find yourself heading west. So when it comes to your depression, ask yourself, what is it that I value within my business, but also even in my personal life? Because if you're not careful, your business will overtake your personal life, therefore leaving you a successful yet depressed entrepreneur. So do not forget the personal things in your life. And this may be relationships, this may be your family, this may be you taking time to enjoy leisure activities like going to a local baseball game, basketball game, going to a park, or just flying out of the country, right? Whatever it is that brings you happiness, that brings you joy, I need you to do that. There are many people that I've known, that I've seen, whether it's my personal clients or that I've seen from social media because they've killed themselves. There are many people who are successful but still depressed. There are many people who have a lot of money but still do not feel worthy, okay? And as a result, they end up dying by suicide. And we want to make sure that we stop that by not following victim to the success trap. So find your values and now unlock the door and let you get out of that hamster wheel, if you will. And then point number 5, this is the biggest thing that keeps people depressed, and it's ruminating. So ruminating, what it does, and we also know this as overthinking, but what ruminating does is that it gives people a false sense of working, solving their problems. It gives them a false sense of security, because in their mind, they're trying to figure out why they're depressed, or they're trying to figure out, like, why did I get here? Why does this always happen to me? They're trying to look for this golden answer, this silver bullet that's going to stop them from feeling depressed in the future. But what happens is when they're ruminating, they're not present. And when they're not present, they're not taking action towards those values that I recently just mentioned. And also, in addition to this, depression, when you're overthinking, it's kind of like the equivalent of stepping in quicksand and trying to fight that quicksand, if you will. Because guys, that sadness that you feel is something that a lot of people will feel. And if you tell someone the circumstances of your sadness, they'll tell you that it's actually okay and that they've probably felt sad over the exact same thing. But when you start to ruminate over the sadness, so you start to look back on your life and say, why does this always happen to me? what starts to happen is that sadness starts to turn into depression, okay? Because again, depression is 2 weeks worth of feeling sad and along with all the other symptoms that I mentioned. So if you're overthinking about, let's say, your Facebook ads not working, let's say a post that you post on social media getting some flack by a troll, right? If you're overthinking because, again, you failed some type of test that you're supposed to pass, whatever it is, trust me when I say it doesn't have to turn into depression unless you want it to, unless you're overthinking and ruminating. So one of the best ways to stop that is to be present, to also know that sadness is actually okay, and to allow yourself to feel that sadness. It may sound crazy because we live in a world that preaches positivity. It's like, no, you got to think positive. You have to use affirmations. But guys, trust me, that right there will also keep you depressed because you're trying to fight something that's actually normal. Think about it like this. If you went through a breakup, right? If you went through a breakup and one of your best friends just said, hey, just think positively about it, how would you respond? You'd probably look at them crazy. What if this, right? And this is a little bit darker, but what if you lost someone, right? Let's say you lost someone and you're at the repast and all that stuff, and someone leans over and says, hey, cheer up, man. Like, it's like, dude, I just lost someone, right? Like, it's not, hey, snap your fingers and then I'm all better, right? Actually, it comes off as very insensitive. And I don't want you to be insensitive when it comes to your own depression, your own sadness, your own pain, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back over these 5 points, and again, make sure you subscribe to this channel. So the first main point is that you must know the difference between sadness and depression. Sadness, we all feel. Depression, that's something that you don't have to go through. Second, notice the path that has gotten you to depression, because there's a great chance that you've been down this path before. And what you can easily do is change the patterns, right? Change your habits to make sure that at the end of it, right, we're not in this dark place that we are now. Point number 3, spend time every day doing something that you love as an entrepreneur. Okay, again, you can be doing a lot of stuff, right? A lot of mundane tasks, boring tasks, hard tasks, right? And some of that stuff is necessary. But if you're not spending time doing things that you love, you may lose your path. You may lose track of your path in terms of what it is or why it is you do what you do. And then main point number 4, spend more time reevaluating your values instead of your goals. Because the goals, without being attached to a value, will keep you in that hamster wheel of asking yourself, okay, what's the next goal? What's the next milestone that I need to hit? Rather than being able to see that you're successful in your own right as of now. You're fulfilled, you have fulfillment in your life, you have happiness in your life right in front of you. But you can only notice that if you know what your values are. And then point number 5, make sure that you stop ruminating. Ruminating takes sadness and it turns it into depression, okay? And that comes from all the overthinking, the ruminating, basically not taking any action and being stuck in this dark place, just trying to figure out, why is this always happening to me? Maybe I should have done this differently. What does that do? It does nothing. It just keeps you in this stuck place. So just be present, take action, and give yourself grace as you're going down this path of transformation, happiness, and fulfillment. So this is Coach Wells. I'm a licensed therapist. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. And thanks, guys, for checking us out. All right, later.